Well, thank you so much. I aspire someday to be important enough not to need an introduction. I am so happy to be here for our 10th anniversary. As Michael said, and many of you have heard the story about the founding of TAMEST, and it started with a nugget, and then we got a wonderful committee together that was made up of our Nobel laureates like Michael Brown and Richard Smalley, and our presidents of our research institutions. And, you know, I didn't say last night when I accepted the award how crucial it was for the buy-in of the presidents and chancellors of our research universities. They helped with the early funding when we were really just starting, and they said, we love this idea, we will pay for our members of the national academies to go to the meetings, because the idea of collaboration was a new one. Before 10 years ago, basically, Michael Brown didn't know Richard Smalley, and Michael DeBakey didn't know what was being done in Dallas, and vice versa. And A&M and Texas were fighting all the time. They were trying to hide what they were doing. But now we work together because we collaborate, because we meet, because we talk about the great research that is being done and how we can do more by putting our centers of excellence together. And that's the key. We don't want everyone to be the same. We don't want everyone to be MD Anderson or UT Southwestern or UT Austin or A&M or our great universities. We need to have centers of excellence that are better in some areas than others, and then put those together for our strongest grant requests. And that's what has begun to happen with the founding of TAMEST and the collaboration and the getting to know each other. And I'm really pleased that the reason that I even thought of this was because when I went on the Appropriations Committee, Texas was 6th in America in federal funding at our institutions of higher education. And I said, you know, I'm not going to go out and say, we're Texas and we deserve this. I'm going to go find out where our best centers of excellence are, and I'm going to bring our chancellors and our presidents up to Washington to see what the federal government priorities are. And that's exactly what we did. And from that, then, we started doing grant requests that met the requirements of the priorities of the federal government, and we have moved from 6th to 3rd. And 3rd's never good enough for Texas, but, you know, we started only 10 years ago in this effort. And now we're 3rd, and we're moving up. We're very close to 2nd. And California and New York are number 1 and number 2. California, because they have so many more research institutions, and their population is 1/3 bigger than Texas. I'll grant them that. But New York, we can beat them. And that's exactly what we're doing gradually. And we're bringing more of the great minds to Texas. We're recruiting. People know about TAMEST in the academic community, and they also know about CPRIT. And we're going to save CPRIT, there's no doubt about that. And we're going to keep that focus that we have. And I should have mentioned Rice University, because Rice actually was one of the nuggets for this organization when Neil Lane said, we don't know each other. And that's what we need to do. So I'm very pleased that we have 10 years and that the enthusiasm and the vibrance is still here. And of course, I think because you all are so innovative and creative, that is why the vibrance will continue. I want to say that Texas is a natural place for the very best research, because we do have the excellence in our institutions. We also have a good business climate. We like business in Texas. I'm going to tell you, when I hear my colleagues from California and New York talk about business, this is kind of a yucky attitude, like, business, They need to be hemmed in. They need more regulation. Oh, really? No, Texas knows that it is business that creates the economic environment to take the research that is done and turn it into marketable products. And so being a pro-business state is one of our great advantages, and we're a low-tax state because we want business to flourish. So we have a lot going for us. The quality of life is good, and we're recruiting just the very best people for the heads of our major institutions and the research projects in our major institutions. And I do think that from the emphasis of research at the federal level, and that we have been able to continue that, and CPRIT, that we show that we love our researchers, we love our science, we love our academic excellence. And sometimes you don't hear that, and sometimes you may get a miscommunication from some of our elected officials. But the fact is that we do. We revere our science and the excellence of our academic institutions. We have 3 Tier 1s in Texas, as you know, and we want to have 6. And we can afford 6, and we can prioritize 6. So we're now in a wonderful program that actually Dr. David Daniel, one of the former presidents of this organization, thought of a way to bring in more of the Tier 1s. And he got a great plan put forward, which the legislature has accepted, and they're funding now 6 other institutions to be able to vie for that excellence. And that's exactly what we need. So I think that we are on a good course. We are proud, as I have said, in Texas, of our cultural diversity. We're proud of our big hair and barbecue and rodeos, and our Nobel laureates and our National Academy members. And that's exactly the kind of entrepreneurial spirit that built our state and will continue it. I just want to say that my experience in forming this organization, Michael calls me the mother. Well, Michael and Richard are the fathers of this institution, and there's a godfather. And the godfather is Peter O'Donnell, because when we were in our formative stages, he's the one who said we need to have an award in each of the 3 academy venues, science, medicine, and engineering. And of course, Peter never has an idea that he doesn't stand behind. And he said, I will fund those awards. And he did. He started us with the $25,000 award that would go to each of the 3, which has now been expanded to 4, the more commercial sector. And that really gave us some oomph. And it was the structure of the award that Michael Brown and Richard Smalley came up with, which basically said no one who's a member of the Academy is eligible, because we want the young researchers to be able to win the prizes and get the recognition and know that Texas is a state that appreciates. So that's how the O'Donnell Award came about, and I think that it has made a difference, and I think these meetings have made a difference. For instance, one of the major speakers, Yuta Zogby, came as a presenter protege in one of our early TAMEST meetings, and people were blown away by her. I don't know if she's here yet, but she then was elected to the IOM. So it's something that we want to do, and that's why the proteges are here, because it was the members who said, we want the proteges to come, we want to highlight the research, we want to hear about what is going on, and I think that has given us then more members of the National Academies. We've brought some in from out of state, but we've also grown our own from within. I just want to make 2 more points. One is that my experience in being associated with these scientists has been twofold. Number one, I've worked with some of the really strong researchers who have run into problems because they had government funding, but they didn't find exactly what they were looking for in the beginning, but they didn't give up. I've had the personal experience of working with Dr. Robert Haley, who believed when he was looking at the veterans coming back from the Gulf War, 1/3 of whom had symptoms that were debilitating. 1/3 of those veterans. And yet, the Department of Defense was saying it was stress-related. And Dr. Haley said, no, that cannot be. These are physical impediments. These are physical injuries. And he got federal funding. He got funding from Ross Perot. And then the federal government, after 10 years, said, we can find no evidence that these veterans were in any way subject to sarin gas or any other chemical, because the Department of Defense said that gas travels low on the ground, and it couldn't have gone 100 miles. And Haley said, this is physical, it is not stress. And so he was castigated in the scientific community. He was written about in the Washington Post, saying this is a figment of his imagination, he's just stirring up trouble, basically. And he came to me, Ross Perot came to me, and I got funding for him. And he kept on going, and he finally found someone who worked on the Appropriations Committee where I had gotten the earmark, and he was also a veteran and a former CIA agent, and he started looking at weather satellites, the records from back in the 1990-91 era, and they actually did find the chemical clouds that had actually set off alarms, chemical alarms in Baghdad. And they started tracing the alarms and the weather data that he was looking at, and what they found that now has been published in the AMA journals is that, in fact, it wasn't what was originally thought, the sarin gas that had been exploded at a place called Camisea and traveled low. No, it was the American bombing of arsenal storage areas, and the sarin gas and chemicals had gone up, and there was a low weather that kept it there that caused the alarms to go off for a week. And these were the veterans that were showing those symptoms. So he never gave up. My point is that the great research is sometimes more than sticking to your science-based theories. Sometimes you have to fight in the public arena, and sometimes you have to fight in the political arena, which you're not equipped to do. To be honest, you're really not. But it has separated some of the greatest discoveries, and this is just now coming to fruition, and we're going to find antidotes for this exposure now, because it does affect the brain, and that has been proven. And another one was Dr. Sam Ting, who spoke here last year, and he put together in CERN, Switzerland, an alpha magnetic spectrometer. And when there were budget cuts about 8 years ago, NASA cut back on the number of shuttles going to the space station where it was scheduled to go, and he was told that it was too heavy and it couldn't go up. But he didn't give up. Dr. Sam Ting, of course, is a Nobel laureate from MIT. He spoke here last year, and he didn't give up, and he came to me and Senator Bill Nelson from Florida, and he said, this is too important. We want to study the cosmic rays that can be hit on the space station but can never be hit with the same intensity on Earth, because he wanted to know what the dark matter might be made of, if there is dark matter, and he thinks that could lead eventually, maybe, to the use of cosmic rays for energy production. And he didn't give up, and he went through the political system, and the very second to last shuttle, we got that alpha magnetic spectrometer put in the law that reauthorized NASA, because he showed us the scientific value of that. So I'm just saying sometimes it's the extra mile. It's the Dr. Richard Smalley and Dr. Bob Curl, who is here also, the other Nobel laureate with Richard Smalley. They were looking at carbon dust. They found the buckyball, which became carbon-66, looking for something else. So I know that I have loved seeing and working with people like you who are doing these great things and who can look at something that they didn't expect to find and turn it into something like nanotechnology. And I will just say the other side, the second point I want to make is, and what I have loved about this organization is I've learned to meet these great scientific minds and find out how much fun they are. When I was with Michael Brown at our TAMEST meeting 2 years ago in Austin, TAMEST thought of having sixth graders do robotics contests. And they got sixth graders from 3 different schools in the Austin area to do a robotics project. So Michael Brown and I were sitting there watching these sixth graders do these robotics, and they were so excited, and they were just competing like crazy. And I said to Michael, "So is this what you were doing when you were 11 years old?" And he said, "Oh no, I was playing baseball." And then there was the time that I was going to have a press conference with Richard Smalley out at the University of Houston, and I walked in, and his back was turned. He was talking to someone else, and I walked in, and I put my hands over his eyes from the back, and, you know, I just hugged him and put my hands over his eyes, and he was stiff, and he turned around, and he said, "Oh, thank goodness. I thought you were my second ex-wife." So I have loved both the scientific enrichment that I have received with the scientists and working with them, but I have also loved getting to know how much fun and how down to earth our greatest minds can be. So thank you all for being here today and participating, and I'm just going to look for more members of national academies, and I've come to every one of the 10 meetings, and I plan to go to every one of them in the future, because I get more from it than I give, for sure. Thank you so very much.